Hi, I'm Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games. This is Season 2, Episode 1 of Build of the Week, a series that examines awesome character builds that players have created in Path of Exile. Season 1 was released during the closed beta and received almost 1.6 million views. People mail in every day saying they'd love it to return, so we're bringing it back for Path of Exile's release. Our plan for Season 2 is to focus on builds from many different areas of Path of Exile: the endgame, farming, boss runs, race events, low-level PvP, even capture the flag team builds. We'll let the community know what the focus of each episode is so they can submit builds in advance. Because Path of Exile isn't actually released yet, our first build is from a Grinding Gear Games developer. Our QA lead, who is known in the community as Neon Spider, submitted this one, which is a level 74 Scion build that primarily uses new features from the 1.00 release. Please note that at the time that this is being filmed, we're a couple of weeks away from release still. A lot of the balance shown here will certainly change before and after version 1.0 hits the live servers. While we're wanting to show this episode early to demonstrate what the Scion was capable of, and to provide a sneak preview of new content, I'm absolutely positive this build will play differently in the released version. Don't try to copy it exactly. The primary skill that this character is built around is Spectral Throw, which throws a ghostly version of your weapon that returns to you. It can deal damage to the same enemy several times, especially if you aim it so the weapon turns around while it's inside the enemy. Spectral Throw is able to shotgun enemies, meaning that if it's augmented by multiple projectiles, then it's possible for all 3 to 5 of them to hit the same monster. You can control the angle of the shotgun effect with careful cursor placement. On this character, Spectral Throw is augmented by greater multiple projectiles, faster attacks, weapon elemental damage, and added fire damage. If the character were to obtain a 6-link item, the final socket could be used for life leech or perhaps chance to flee, knockback, or blind. With Spectral Throw, larger weapons hit more monsters due to their increased size. Because of that, this build uses a large physical two-handed weapon. The projectile weakness curse has an interesting effect with Spectral Throw. It not only increases their damage, but the knockback effect helps keep monsters at range and allows them to be hit more times by the same throw. Leap Slam has been included for mobility and for synergy it has with Spectral Throw. You can throw your weapon at a pack of monsters and then leap behind another group. Thrown weapons will also damage those enemies as they return to you. It's time to look at the passive skill tree of this build. Please note that this version of the passive tree shown here is not the final one. We're still iterating heavily on a daily basis, so you should expect skills to be in different places when you play the 1.00 version. The Scion was picked for this character build because she starts in the center of the tree and needs to access passives that are right across the tree from each other. Defensively, the character is built around the Eldritch Battery and Mana Shield combo. This means that it has to be life-based but wants energy shield items. The best route downwards towards Mana Shield is through projectile damage and attack speed, then going left for strength and life before picking Iron Grip, which provides a large damage increase for this build because of its overabundance of strength. We then recommend cutting in towards the duelist area and claiming a lot of strong attack speed, life, mana, and other passive skills before getting the Mana Shield keystone at the bottom. This build doesn't have much opportunity to stack accuracy and also hasn't taken advantage of critical strike and critical damage. This gives it the ideal excuse to get Resolute Technique, which further increases its damage potential by removing the ability to miss or crit monsters. The rest of the passives are a matter of grabbing as much life and damage as possible. This character takes advantage of the new Cast on Damage Taken trigger gem in an interesting way. The support gem measures how much post-mitigation damage you receive and triggers the supported skills when the total reaches the specified value. There are actually 2 copies of that trigger gem on this Scion, one at level 1 and one at level 16. The lower level one has a much lower threshold that it triggers at, so it's set up to support Enduring Cry. This means that while taking damage, you'll periodically gain endurance charges. The higher level Cast on Damage Taken gem supports both a Mortal Call and Molten Shell. This triggers less frequently than the one attached to Enduring Cry, which ensures you'll have several endurance charges up when a Mortal Call triggers, consuming them all to make you immune to physical damage for a while. This synergizes really well with Molten Shell, which counts damage based on how much is mitigated. With 100% physical mitigation from a Mortal Call, the shell will quickly detonate. This set of gems is also supported by increased duration for obvious reasons. This build primarily uses Strength and Intelligence hybrid items, granting armor and energy shield. The energy shield is converted into mana via Eldritch Battery. The items prioritize life, resistances, mana, armor, and damage. The weapon is intended to have as much physical damage as possible. In terms of flasks, this character has 2 seething flasks for emergencies. They dispel bleeding and shocks respectively. There's a granite flask that can be useful if your molten shell doesn't detonate during the immortal call. There's a quicksilver flask for mobility and for kiting Spectral Throw projectiles over monsters. The mana flask is mostly unnecessary due to high regeneration, but also grants mana leech on use, so it can be used as a form of life leech due to the Eldritch Battery and mana shield combo. There's also a ruby flask available to swap into during fights that are heavy on fire, as fire is the highest average damage element. There are many options to expand this build further. Because Molten Shell works better when you have armor than evasion, it's certainly possible to use the keystone passive Iron Reflexes to turn the evasion from grace into further armor. It's also possible to use the point blank keystone to reward a playstyle where you fight monsters that are very close to you in return for more damage. The new slower projectile support chip helps pull the Spectral throw sweet spot closer to you. Of course, this may be a dangerous strategy and might require additional life leech. It was a lot of fun to put this video together after a 10-month break. I'm really looking forward to filming the rest of the season of Build of the Week and getting a chance to check out your builds. We'll be posting more information about where to submit your characters in upcoming news posts. Path of Exile leaves open beta and is being formally released on October 23rd. We're very proud of this release version and can't wait to share information about our ongoing content updates with you. Thanks so much for your generous support and detailed feedback. Don't forget to subscribe and see you next time.